we do at businessofcannabis.com. Coming up on this BOC Live, we connect with Ned Horsted. He is the Executive Director of the Cannabis Industry Association of South Dakota. In 2020, the voters in South Dakota passed medical and adult use recreational cannabis measures on their ballot. We want to connect with Ned about the status of both. This is Ned Horsted of the Cannabis Industry Association of South Dakota. Ned Horsted, thanks for being here.
You're welcome, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Well, we've been following obviously closely what's happening in South Dakota. You are the head of the Cannabis Industry Association in South Dakota. Give us a little bit of a background for those that do not know, like when legalization was passed, what was available, what's happening now, and what the status is of like rollout.
Yeah, so South Dakota was the first state to pass medical and adult use on the same ballot. So since then, quite a bit has happened. They launched, it was Amendment A, was the adult use amendment to the Constitution, and then there was a statutory initiated Measure 26 for medical. Since then, we've been hard at work with the Department of Health and other stakeholders to set up the medical program. Unfortunately, within a couple weeks of the election, a couple law enforcement folks entered a suit against Amendment A on a number of grounds. So, and the Supreme Court has heard the case. It's probably been about 6 months since they heard it, but we are anxiously waiting a decision on that.
And so you've been working, I know because we've done some events with you, I mean, working throughout the state, talking to municipalities, talking to cities, talking to counties about sort of what a rollout might look like. What are you hearing from local government about either their openness to it, where they want medical dispensaries, adult use dispensaries? Like what is the general frame of the conversation, and does it vary by sort of geography?
Sure. It does vary quite a bit. What's interesting is under IM 26, the medical law was written by the activist community primarily, and it set up a really interesting structure. So it's legal everywhere. Local governments cannot ban dispensaries. So everyone's required to at least allow it. However, there are 4 licensing types here. We've got cultivation, product development, testing, and retail dispensaries. So there are several counties that are deciding to ban the rest of the industry, even testing facilities, kind of curiously. And there are others that are pretty wide open to business, which South Dakota tends to pride itself in, being a pretty conservative state, not having government too restrictive on the type of business that we're seeing here. We're sort of seeing the opposite side of that here. I guess I use the example, I don't remember, I think it was a Supreme Court justice said, states are labs of democracy, basically. Very much in the cannabis world here, that's what cities and counties are, since they can kind of do their own thing and there's not a statewide cap. Local governments can kind of figure out what they want to do, and we're seeing the gamut of that from wide open to, one license that's a dispensary period, and, licensing costs that are many multiples of what is allowed for the state to charge. So it's an interesting spot to be for sure.
So Ned, thinking about sort of the regionality of it, because what we've seen in other places like Illinois and even Michigan, they are seeing a huge number of the purchases actually being out-of-state people coming in because it's not legal in their state,
Sure.
coming out with cannabis. Are you seeing sort of a regionality of how states that neighbor South Dakota are approaching cannabis now that, you guys are on the cusp?
Yeah, certainly after the election, there were a lot of folks that reached out. I think there were a lot of people that were surprised that adult use passed in a state like South Dakota. So we've heard from different businesses throughout the region that are interested in getting in. Several just want to wait until we for certain have a Supreme Court decision that's in our favor. And there are other ways that we will get there if that's not the case ultimately. But yeah, there's been a lot of interest from throughout the region, certainly. And I think some of them maybe even think, talk to some folks in Minnesota. I know there are folks in Nebraska that are setting up, I believe, another ballot measure campaign. I've heard rumblings that North Dakota is going to try to do something in that direction. So yeah, I think there's sort of a scramble on the political level in surrounding states to maybe catch up with us. And then here in state, it's really an interesting balance. And we'll see what happens in the legislative session. But there are, we've got people on both sides of that. Some want to continue to put the brakes on it. And we've got a lot of allies that maybe didn't even support this, but they realized that their constituents did, and they're looking to do the right thing.
I mean, I want to sort of dive into that because did it catch elected officials by surprise, the level of support these measures had in the election? Because I think we were talking about it a little bit when we were all in Las Vegas, and it came up a number of times that it seems like on this issue, elected officials are just further behind than the electorate almost all the time. It's a thorny issue, of course, but the electorate they are generally in favor of this, no matter their political stripes. It's the one thing people sort of agree on is people like cannabis.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'd say that, and even some of the elected officials have said exactly that. I think that the voters are 6-8 years ahead of most elected officials on that. So I see kind of three paths towards adult use here in the state. And that's, of course, when we receive a decision from the Supreme Court. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. There could be some middle ground where maybe they hack off the regulatory piece, saying how much it's taxed. Department of Revenue has authority over it, and some of that stuff. That's option one. Option two, our association is working with several legislators that are in peer sessions, only like 3 months long, so it starts in January. But the ball is already rolling on. How we might be able to do this legislatively, and then the campaign team, South Dakotans for Better Marijuana Laws, is working on another signature drive to get it on the ballot in 2022. So we've got kind of three different paths here.
I mean, it's been interesting to watch sort of the advocates in South Dakota, and it's been like almost an inspiration to sort of see the doggedness with which they are approaching it, but also understand the issues that everybody's facing on the ground. And of course, they feel unique because you're in it every day. But we're having conversations, of course, in South Dakota, New York, New Jersey, even places that legalized a long time ago, Colorado. Like many of the issues almost repeat themselves over and over again, which is sort of nice to look at the lens. It doesn't feel any better for you because you're in the midst of it and like trying to work with hesitant elected officials and regulators. But it has been great to sort of get to know you and the team because you're doing amazing work. I'm going to encourage folks who are watching to get in touch with you if they have questions about what's happening in South Dakota or interested in doing business there. Can I put your email too?
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a steady growth in membership as we get closer and closer. Licensing on the medical side is happening as we speak. The largest city in the state, Sioux Falls, has their lottery. The deadline is actually today, which is the 15th. And that's happening in different parts of the state. But yeah, it's very, very exciting. And I'd be happy to connect with others. Even ancillary businesses, there are a lot of folks here that not the level of expertise that there have been in states that have been legal for 10 or more years. So,
Ned, I want to thank you for joining us. It's always good to hear what's happening in South Dakota and new markets on the horizon. So thank you for joining us. And as always, we're going to encourage folks to get in touch with the Cannabis Industry Association of South Dakota and Ned in particular. Thanks, Ned.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jay. Have a good one.
You too. That was Ned Horsted, the Executive Director of the Cannabis Industry Association of South Dakota. If you like this program, please rate and review us wherever you hear the show. It helps support the work we do. We're able to do what we do because of ongoing partnerships with Alterna Savings, Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Gallagher, Headset, and Torque & Main. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com.